Welcome to episode number 12 of the Modern Agile Show. It's been a long time since I've been here. I know that. I'm really sorry. We redecorated the office a little bit, and I am thrilled to have Laura Klein here.
Thrilled to be here.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure. We go back several years now, right?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've
I mean,
written
we're
a few...
both so young. We were children.
Hard to
Yes,
tell.
hard to say.
Aged at all, right?
Yes.
And you've written like several books since we first met.
But what do they take, like a week, 2 weeks to churn out?
You're amazing.
Trivial.
Yeah. I admire you because I know that you do the walking desk thing. You've written 2 books as you've been like walking.
It's actually now hard for me to type while standing still.
That's incredible.
Well, I've told you this. I managed to screw up my back about 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So everybody's like, "Oh, you're getting old." I'm like, "Nah, I screwed it up in my 20s." So it's actually easier for me to stand or walk or lie down, but I don't really have like a lying down desk yet because I didn't want to fully give in. It seemed like just admitting defeat.
Yes. Well, I'm very impressed. And so your latest book, Build Better Products.
Yes, and it should be said aggressively, build better products.
Build Better Products. A modern approach to building successful user-centered products.
Yes.
So I love that. Certainly the modern things. I use the same word. Why did you say modern approach?
So I very much believe in user-centered design. I love user-centered design. I was doing user-centered design though in the 90s when everything was waterfall because that is what largely we had.
That's what we had.
And there were no metrics in the 90s because what would that even mean? I mean, like, I shipped
so true.
I mean, you had metrics like how many CD-ROMs did you ship to someone?
Yeah.
But really, that was about all you got.
Yeah.
So
we didn't do any insight. We
did a lot of. I mean, we did a lot of qualitative stuff, and I'm still for a lot of the qualitative stuff. I don't want to lose that. So the point is not to get all modern and data driven and lose all the talking to human bits because that's important. But I wanted something that was still user centered, but that was also data influenced and that took into account things like hey, we can ship continuously now. Hey, we can build very small things and then build them. We don't have to launch a giant thing and just throw it out into the world and hope it does well.
Too much risk.
Yeah.
Way too much risk, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so all of that's in there.
So it's very much about user-centered. It's very much about continuous product evolution.
Yes. And about focusing both on the user and then also the whole first section, and believe me, this was widely debated with my editor and publisher, the whole first section is about understanding the company's needs. Because I also think that we should make products that make money.
That's right.
I know it's revolutionary though.
Yeah,
but
it's actually amazing. You can actually build a product that makes nothing but makes a lot of people happy, except that how do you stay in business?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I mean, VC subsidies.
Right.
I mean, that should have been like chapter 13, just, okay, and now the real story, here's how to get VCs to subsidize your lifestyle. If I knew how to do that, that would be a different book. Right. Yeah.
Well, you live in Silicon Valley. You know this
I should learn
very well.
Seems like I've had time to learn.
So, all right. So first, a couple of gifts for you. We have several gifts. Here's a Modern Agile sticker.
Very nice.
Here's one for your refrigerator, a magnet, and then here's a button. And
for me to put on my denim jacket.
Yes.
Or my backpack.
We're working on those.
I love it.
So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about Modern Agile and your book and just chat in general since it's been a while.
Yeah. This also is, I mean, mine has 5 steps in it, the book, but they're roughly very similar to, yeah. They map very nicely.
What are your 5?
Well, it's technically 6, but the last one is just iterate. So the acronym that I use to remember it is GECVME.
Oh, that's easy to remember.
Sure, yeah, GECVME. I like to picture it as like, a Roman gecko. It's like a gecko in a toga. I keep trying to get Kate to draw me one of those. Yeah. So you have to define your goal.
Yes.
You have to have empathy for the user and understanding the user.
Mm-hmm.
You have to create something,
Yes.
You want to validate it. So you're validating all of your assumptions. You're not just creating things and you're creating something to validate it. And you're validating by measuring it.
Yep.
And then you're iterating.
Okay.
And literally the iterating section is one page,
right.
which is, okay, go back
right.
to the beginning and start over. And
yeah.
preferably buy a new book for it, because it works better if you always start with a fresh book.
Right. Okay, so let's go through those real quick. So it's define your goal and empathize with the user. Those are the first two.
And the idea is that you have to sort of, match those up so that
right.
you're building something that makes the user's life better.
Yes.
And makes them, this is the make people awesome
make
thing,
people
right?
awesome, yes.
That's the make people awesome
Yeah.
in a way that, is beneficial to your company.
Right, because you really can't you can't implement make people awesome if you're not empathizing and if you're not really having a clear goal on what you're building.
This is the problem that people have that we as a company care about fixing for them. Right. That's the make people awesome.
Yes, and then you've got what's the hand symbol? That's the
empathy. That's create. Yeah,
create
that's
something.
Create.
Yes,
create something. Which that's the sort of. If you think about delivering value continuously, that can be in code, or it can be in prototypes, or it can be in anything that we learn from. Yeah. So.
Well, I learned the feature fake technique from you. I called it feature fake. I think you called it something else.
No, it's a feature stub, feature fake. Fake doors is a good one. Yeah. It's all the same stuff.
Yeah, this is actually how I first learned about you. With some people came back from a Lean Startup conference and said, "Oh, there's this woman named Laura Klein talking about this stuff. It was brilliant." I was like, "I need to meet her." And then I hadn't even met you, but they were talking about the feature fake concept. I think within a day or two, I was doing it on our project, on our actual product, our e-learning. And then I think I wrote about it.
It was great.
So that is an example of doing something really fast and quick to get feedback and not actually building it first. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the validation and measurement is, just very much experimenting and learning rapidly from it, and just techniques for that.
Yeah.
And
so it's validation and measurement.
I don't talk much about the making the safety a prerequisite, although I do have my last chapter does include a lot of stuff about sort of good teams and how good cross-functional teams work together. Right. I have the concept of the heist team, and I did a talk at Mind the Product about I want to be on a heist team where there's a team of experts. You're also going to learn that I am mostly focused on heist movies. It's really heist movies.
So
we're
stealing.
No.
Oh.
Yes, but no. I don't like the stealing part, but I like the we're all coming together for one last job, and it's a team of experts.
Oh, I love it.
And everybody's an expert, and everybody knows what everybody else is doing, and everybody trusts each other. I don't tell the safecracker how to crack a safe.
No.
Because I'm the getaway driver, and my job is to drive the getaway car. Yeah. You got to trust that I'm going to be where I'm supposed to be, and if something goes wrong, and something always goes wrong,
always in a heist.
It's the heist, man.
I love this metaphor.
If something goes wrong, we've got to be ready to adjust, and we've all got to be smart enough and know. And we all have this really clear goal. Yeah. We know what bank we're hitting.
Right.
We know we know why we're doing it. Yeah. Because that's when the gold gets delivered.
Yeah.
It's super important.
Really cool.
And also it's just an excuse to watch heist movies.
Yeah.
Oceans 11 through 13.
Oceans 11. There are great movies like this. I love it. Cool. Well, all right. So we have to form heist teams, folks.
Heist teams. That's the new thing, heist teams.
That is beautiful. So, so the safety part, I think that's everything you talk about is about how to not, it's risk management, isn't it? Yeah. It's a good risk management. How do you, if you're working without a goal or you're working without empathy for your user, you're not safe.
No.
You're building stuff that, doesn't really meet the needs of the users.
How could it possibly? If it does, it's just complete luck.
Right.
And I'm not a lucky person.
All right. So I think you also address this with your user map. I think your user map is a safety technique.
That makes sense. Okay. That's interesting.
Tell us about the user map.
Okay. So the user map is a visual representation of 16 questions that I found have to be answered over the course of your product's life cycle and developing your product. And it's everything from things like, how do you communicate to your user? What kind of messaging actually works with your specific user? To things like, what specific problem are you actually solving? And then things like, why is your user going to keep using this 10 years from now?
Right.
Like how do they grow? How does this product grow, and how does it improve the user's life? And the interesting thing is that all of these questions, hopefully, there is some answer to somewhere at your company. I've found that many times they live in different places, which is why it's in little segments. We call the picture on the podcast. Of course, you can't see it.
There's a picture,
but there's a picture. If you go to the Rosenfeld Media Flickr site and look for Laura Klein or Build Better Products, you can actually get the download for this. It's pretty high quality.
And we can post it during the video editing portion.
But there are these 5 segments, and the 5 segments, like if you think about it, there's a channels and influencer section that probably your marketing person knows all about. They know all about what channels do we use to communicate with people, and who helps them make decisions.
So they know about the product to begin with.
We would, yeah, exactly. Yes. And then things like, the context of use is one of the sections, and that should be something like, how is your product being used? Is it being used, in an office or in a bedroom or on a train? Yes. But also, is it being used 5 minutes at a time? Is it being used 5 hours at a time? Is it being used once a year? Yeah. These are things your UX designer hopefully knows and has studied intensely. So anyway, there's all these different questions, and the goal is just to get the answers to them and to acknowledge when you don't know the answer.
Right.
That's real important, because sometimes the answer is going to be, I don't know, neither does anybody else. And you know what? Great, that section's going to be empty, and you're going to figure it out.
Tell me about this. So you have goals and purchase intent.
Yes.
And then there's time and money.
So there's something that you have to think about when you're building a product that is the intent to a human's intent to purchase something. And the idea is that if somebody has shown intent to pay somebody to solve a problem that they have, they are much more likely to pay you to solve the problem, especially if they haven't found the right answer to it.
Right.
It's a different sort of thing to think about than just I hear people talk all the time about like, oh, they don't even know they have the problem, and it's like, well, yeah, you could solve that. You could do that, but it's just much, much, much easier to sell something to somebody who's actually searching for a real solution to a problem. Yeah,
it's a good point. I mean, I'm in love with this new feature in Gmail, the Smart Reply.
Oh yeah, you love it.
The 3 little buttons.
What do you love about it?
Well, it just saves me time. I mean, anything that can really save me time, I love. And the fact that they're analyzing this is Google's Smart Reply feature in Gmail. The fact that they're analyzing my text, it's anonymous. I've talked to Googlers, it's all anonymous. So it's not like they're, compiling data about me, but they know how I reply. Like I might say no worries, or, so they know how, and it just makes me go faster. So, I mean, I'd love to see my percentage of time that I actually use it. I know sometimes I'll click it and then I add a little more to the response, but the fact that it can save me time, there are some times where I have to press 2 things and I'm done. Whereas in the past I had to type. 2 buttons, that is, press one of the options and then hit the send button, I'm done.
Yeah, it's real nice for when you're triaging, emails maybe from bed in the morning, which is totally something I do.
Yeah.
It's like anything I actually have to wake up for?
Right.
Nope. Great. Oh, that one. Great. Click.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And you're done. Yes.
Yeah.
The quick ones.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
It's helpful for that. So yeah. So the user map, 16 questions that helps you map out many different things from the channels in marketing to the ultimate use of this thing, and then even down to the future. How's this going to help you in the future? So you're really getting a broad perspective.
And one of the things that we try to do is that it's not just one user map, because very few products actually just have one specific user.
Yes.
And I love personas. I actually really do. I think that I have seen them abused very often.
Yeah.
I think they're a little hard to do for a lot of people, which is unfortunate, because I think they're an incredibly powerful tool.
Yeah.
I think they get screwed up in exactly the same way at every place, and it drives me.
How do people screw them up? What do they do?
It's demographics, or there's way too much detail that isn't really relevant. Or my favorite is, and this is entirely about UX designers, it's on a big fancy poster with
I've seen those.
Beautiful fonts, and it's like, and it feels like a thing that's like that took 6 months to create, and then nobody ever looks at it, and it can't grow. Like it can't. And
yeah, it should be on a whiteboard probably, right?
Yes,
Where you can actually erase and change and adapt.
Yes, if you look at the final version of this, it's sticky notes. Like the whole point is you gotta have sticky notes. Like yeah, you should be able to do that. And here's the thing: none of those are inherent to personas.
It's beautiful.
I like doing personas or even provisional personas and then doing a user map for each one.
I see.
And sometimes if you're answering these questions, you realize the persona that you have is maybe really two people.
Right.
Or maybe two, like, oh, all these answers are really the same. Maybe it's just one. Like maybe I personaed wrong.
Right. Yeah, you know, I remember, so you at some point helped us with our e-learning where we were analyzing usage and we were thinking about different kinds of students, and we ended up with, I think, 4 different kinds of users. And it was fascinating to come from that different perspective and talk about make people awesome. Who are we making awesome? Yeah. Right? I mean, like, you have to understand the different kinds of people that are in your pipeline.
And, you know, that was, as you pointed out, several years ago, you might have entirely different, you might have a new group of people who came in, who you might have. And it's not always, you know, like people with no software experience versus people with lots.
Oh my God.
You know, and it's not always like big company versus small company. It's behavioral. It's how people learn, or it's what the structure of the environment in which they are learning, or what they need to learn.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
I mean, the mistake we made was we didn't gather enough data about the people who were like in our e-learning. Like we didn't know if they were male or female. We didn't know how long they'd been in the software industry. I mean, some basics. So do you recommend for most products that people gather as much data as possible about a user?
I think as long as it's relevant. Like, actually, I don't know if male or female matters. It might. It's hard to say. It's one of those things.
Because we never analyzed it. We never said, well, males answer this way and females answer that way on quizzes. Like, we never looked at that. No. Because we don't have the data.
No. And it might not matter. It might not matter. It might be more of a learning styles thing. And if there's a learning styles thing, like it might be people who take a long time and really like focus on, or people who really like the, you know, personal attention versus people who very much want, you know,
leave me alone.
Yeah, I think that some of the like, you know, whether you read it or you listen to it, I don't know how important that is, but you know, it's how. You know, how much attention are people really paying to this? What are their learning goals?
Yes.
You know, I think those matter. And I think that some of those you can get quantitatively, some you have to get qualitatively. You just have to talk to humans. Right. Which I know is not always everybody's favorite thing to do.
So here's a topic that I find to be talking about talking to humans. So in some processes in Agile, there's a product owner.
They know everything because they're omniscient.
So I have a big problem with that, of course. What? And I think that as several people said, Jeff Patton, I believe, says this, and some others, it's a team sport. Product ownership is a team sport. That an engineer could have a perfectly awesome idea, to maybe as a hypothesis or an experiment, to try, that they came up with an insight about potential users, right? So what's your take on the product owner role?
I may actually be less opposed to it than you are, although I am very fond of collaborative, cross-functional teams and all of that, and I want that, and I always want everybody on the team to understand why we are doing what we are doing. Yes. I don't have a problem with a single person being the one to make the final decision about yes or no. Agreed. But absolutely, let's get input from everybody at the level that they want to contribute. I have certainly met I may or may not live with an engineer who really has no interest in talking to the end user necessarily.
How is that possible? Because, like, to me, that puts you at risk.
And I should say that's not entirely fair. He only builds things for other engineers, and he actually is very good at talking to other engineers. But
so his user is another engineer.
Yeah, so it's a little easier at that point. He sort of knows, like, everybody wants the build faster. He doesn't have to talk to a lot of people to find that out.
Right. No, that's right. It's a good assumption. If you make it faster, they're happy.
They're happy. You can tell. Right. A lot of feedback there. But no, I mean, some engineers don't necessarily want to contribute, end user. Features, that's not their thing. But they absolutely should be giving input into the way that we build something, or, the right models to use, or, what if we tried this? So everybody can contribute something to the design. And if they want to make suggestions for features, great.
Yeah.
Like, as long as they understand the user well and they understand what problem they're solving, I want input from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about empathy. It's like everyone can have some empathy in different ways.
Yeah.
Especially if they're really empathizing with the end users.
Yeah.
I mean, also you talk about the stakeholder, having companies that make money from products. You can empathize with the investors, the executives who are putting their neck on the line.
I have been trying to get, especially UX designers, it drives me nuts when UX designers do this. I have been trying to get UX designers to focus on the fact that not just your end users are your users. The engineers are users of a thing that you make.
That's right.
Right? If you make a prototype or a deliverable, so people ask me, oh, well, what's the right way to present this? I'm like, I don't know. Have you talked to the people who will be using it? It's a thing. Or they say, well, how do I get such and such to change their minds about this? They're just, they're being terrible and they're making these terrible decisions. And I said, well, have you tried to understand why they're making those decisions? I mean, sometimes the answer is because they make terrible decisions, and that happens. Right. But it's a good thing to know. And sometimes they're, working toward different goals than you are. And you need to know that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So everybody is a user of what you're making. So treat them like users and interview them and care about them and understand their goals.
Sounds important. It's everything you're mentioning is just pure gold. It's like, goals, empathy, measurement, or building something and iterating on it, measurement, metrics. You did have a recent podcast where you said that statistics are bullshit.
Statistics are bullshit just because I like to piss people off occasionally.
What do you mean by that?
I mean generalized statistics are
generalized bullshit. Statistics.
The example,
25% of people.
Blah, 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 I don't care. 50% of millennials are, I don't care.
Right.
Yes, and if they want to kill Applebee's, that's on them. It's fine. Go for it, millennials. Please kill more stuff. Most of it's terrible. But no, I think that this sort of aggregate statistics tend to be bullshit, and I like much more specific ones. The example that I gave, there was a cancer treatment that was not testing well, and they were like, oh, this doesn't work at all. And then somehow they figured out that it was 100% effective at knocking out a specific kind of cancer for somebody who had a specific gene, which was like 4% of cancers, which of course, if it's only knocking out 4% of cancers, it's going to do terribly in a big study.
Right.
But if you're in that 4%,
oh yeah, I mean, it's a miracle.
Boy, do you want that, because it's just like, oh, here's your drug, right?
Yes.
So being able to focus more narrowly in on, oh, this only is good at 4% of the time, which is not very good, versus this is good 100% of the time for 4% of people. That's a lot of people.
So be careful with statistics, basically, and generalized statistics.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And also I had to take the class like 3 times, and I was never great at it.
Well, yeah, we've talked about the difficulties of things like Google Analytics and how hard it is. I mean, like, you're an expert in this and just figuring out the metrics out of that thing.
Yeah, and I don't even consider myself an expert in it. I sort of know enough to know what I don't know, so I know enough to think of myself as terrible at it. What worries me is the people who think that they're great.
They think that they understand what it's saying, and they make decisions based upon that. That's dangerous, isn't it?
I think that it really speaks to when you're setting up any kind of experiment, whether it's statistical, whether it's A/B testing, or any kind of experiment, that you understand what your goals are and you understand what success looks like ahead of time, and you can say to yourself, if this happens, that is a good thing, and if this happens, that is a bad outcome, and this means we should keep going, and this means we should stop.
And you have an entire chapter called Measure Better.
I do,
which is all filled with
things like
wisdom.
What are cohorts, and like real basic stuff.
How to actually do a good job at this. Yeah. And does it help you define better experiments?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's really important. If you're going to experiment and learn rapidly, hopefully you're doing good experiments.
If I ever write another book, and I refuse to write another book, I really want to do the little book of experiments. That is just like...
I love it.
Just like, 100 different experiments that people have actually run, and what they did, and
I would buy
what
that.
Happened.
That sounds really good.
See, this is how
this is how it starts.
This is how it starts. This is where it happens. This is where it all goes. But I think it would be helpful.
It would be very helpful.
I think somebody should write that.
Yeah. On a walking desk.
Yes.
Well, it's been wonderful having you.
It's been great.
Thank you for being here, and This was episode 12. Please subscribe and share this with others, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.